Good morning. My name is Dave Archambault. I live on the prairies of the Dakotas, claim on both North and South Dakota. Me am a Hunkpapa Lakota, like a Sitting Bull flavored guy. That's my reservation. Real happy and honored to be here today. You guys are all here and given the assignment or asked to lead you guys in prayer. And I'm glad to do that because you guys are all on the same wavelength as me, I think, I'm pretty sure. And that's about children and what's best for them. And I think you guys are on the right path. So I had one of my experiences was with in Kyle, South Dakota. There was this fellow named Henry Big Boy, and he was sitting there working with a bunch of little children, and they took a picture of him. He was on the front page of the New York Times, front page, big picture about this big, and they showed him working with these kids like this, and he had glasses on, and one of the bowls was a piece of wire because it was the other one, it was broken. So, but it was a real classic picture of a story of this guy. So, and he always said that anytime you're going to talk about learning, education for the children, that you do it with prayer. So that is what I'd like to do. I want to just start out by a little bit saying something about the way our people pray, and we all have it, and it's all really good. All spirituality is good. And so just for a little bit, because I think it's appropriate today, I have smudge here, and I was wanting to smudge with this and use, and for us, it's a cleansing. And since I can't do it, just real quick, because it'll set off fire alarms. But this is the way we would purify ourselves before prayer. And so that we can't do this here because we'll have the fire department. But I will just gesture that this is to cleanse us all, and that we go about today in a real good way. Okay. When we begin prayer, we usually say Omi Dakwe Oyasi, which means all my relations, that you're addressing, you're telling that you understand that you are related to everything and no better than, it's like the sign of the cross. When you start a ceremony, you go, so Catholics go, or Christians go, and the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Omi Dakwe is the same way we would start and end a ceremony. And that is to acknowledge that we are related with everything, above nothing, equal to everything. One of our great teachers that was really well recorded is a guy named Black Elk, and he talks about, our prayer was given to us, the way we pray was given to us by the white buffalo calf woman. She brought us a peace pipe, a woman, and showed us how to pray. But he says that whenever you see a pipe ceremony, and I hope that you guys can and just understand that you're praying to all the universe. When you see that bowl and you see that ceremony go on, what that is about is that you're praying to every direction, and you take tobacco.
I think it's on my.
But you offer tobacco to every direction. Okay. And that is the four directions. And then there's Mother Earth and Father Sky. And then there's one more direction. There's north, south, east, west. What's the last direction? There's 6 of them there. 4 directions, north, south, east, west, up and down. What's 7? That's you, right? You are a direction in this. While you're walking around, you are a direction. So you pray for your own self, and you put that in the pipe, and it's loaded. And when you pray in that manner, you're praying to everything that is. Omi Dakwe Oyasi. You understand that everything, we're related to everything. That's the manner in which we pray. But tobacco is the essence of it. And that is really, when you think about it, for us, that's all you really have. When we all move on, and if you believe that way, that you move on to another world, you're going to meet some people there, and they're going to say, "What were you about?" And they're going to say, "Tobacco." These are our prayers. You can't be looked at as what did you pray for? You can't drive up there when you die. You ain't going to go to the graveyard and pull a big trailer and pull all your furniture and your good cards in there. It's not going to go with you. All you're going to have is that what you really care about and pray for. So in just a real humble way, I'd just like to say, I just conclude with just a prayer from, so if you would please rise for 1 minute, I'll just do a real short prayer. Omitakese. Omakia Unshimayelo. Grandfather, I am pitiful. We are all pitiful. Grandfather, we come and we ask that you work with us, give us the energy and the power to work with children and have them grow and develop in a good way, in a good, peaceful way, in a good, harmonious way. Grandfather, look out for those that are less fortunate. Please take care of them. Grandfather, we thank you for the great gifts, our families that you've given us. Thank you.
Love the claps, love the claps. Welcome everyone, my name is Kie.
My name is Ajay.
We'll be your host today.
It is so good to be back in person and seeing all these faces again. Although some of us are still remote, it's good to be back together in a group after these long 2 years.
It may be a larger group, but it's been a rough time, but we're back together. Some may be in person, some may be online, but we're finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
We hope today can be what it needs to be for you. For those of you that are remote, I hope you are able to take in what you see and take this back to the schools or your communities that you belong in. And those of you that are here, I hope you are able to connect with an old friend or meet some new people or join one of our many amazing breakout sessions.
We're eager to get started. I'll walk you through the next hour. First, we'll hear from students from around our regions that will be joining us from their schools to set the tone for today and give us a charge.
And then we'll hear from Jeff Emmanuel, host of the podcast, All of the Above, who will talk about current issues in our world and who will set more tone for the day. And then we will have a performance from a very important person at my school, Kwao Lee. I'm very excited for that. And now I'll pass the torch to Jackie Statham Allen from Bush Foundation and Lars Esdahl.
Thank you. Okay. Hey, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
It's so nice to see you all. Can you hear me okay? Is my mic on? All right. Well, can you believe it? We are finally here together for our 6th annual gathering of the Student-Centered Learning for Equity convening. Can't believe that it's been 6 years that we've been doing this. Some of you are old pros at this event and others are just joining our community. So whether this is your first time or if you've been to every single event, we want to extend to you a very warm welcome, and we're so glad that you're here today.
And we are hybrid. So for the first time ever, we have folks joining us in person and we have folks online. So this hybrid format enables us to reach more folks who have a hard time or wouldn't otherwise be able to join us here in St. Paul. Being virtual allowed us to bring in more practicing educators, more folks from the Dakotas, from outstate. And our plan is to maintain this hybrid format going forward. So whether you're joining us here in St. Paul or whether you're joining in virtually, welcome. And great to see the folks in the room. And then I think we have some pictures we're going to put up here in a second of all the folks who are joining us virtually.
As we kick off today, we'd like to say thank you to our Student-Centered Learning for Equity Advisory Council for their vision and all of their guidance on today's events. We have some members that are here in the room today. Could you please stand if you're on the Advisory Council? And also, we'd like to welcome. Thank you all for everything you've done. We also want to thank our virtual Advisory Council members, Julie Matheson and Christopher Bordeaux, who are joining us virtually. You know, this was a real job for them. They've been engaging with us for over 6 months or more on this work. And so I think that they put together a really great event. One of the first and most important things that they had to do was set a theme for today. And let's be real, it's been another exhausting year. Student burnout, educator burnout, and mental health issues are still widespread. And a lot of that has to do with COVID. You know, it's been another year of masks and quarantines and stints of hybrid learning and so many other strains in our community. And it's just been another year of disruption, heartache, and despair.
Yeah, and it's unfortunately been a tough year in other ways as well. We've had shouting matches at school board meetings and school board members resigning in record numbers. We've seen shouting matches over critical race theory, as it's been called. We've seen too many students who have experienced hateful actions and words on account of their race, their gender identity or expression, their ability, or so many other elements of who they are. And then over the weekend in Buffalo, New York, we saw how these currents of racism and hatred are not just present in our education system, but also problems we face in our society at large. In this polarized climate, equity has unfortunately too often been misconstrued as a zero-sum game where there are winners and there are losers.
We see promise in student-centered learning to rise above these tense and painful circumstances. After all, don't we all want what's best for the young people that we love? We want an education that sees them and puts them at the center, and all students at the center. One that honors who they are, who their people are, and their unique differences, abilities, needs, and aspirations. And we want education to see the humanity in them. And at the same time, we also need to encourage our students to see the humanity in each other. This is something that I think about a lot. And I have to admit, sometimes it's something I have to work hard at. Because the way that we talk to and about others, it influences the way that we educate our students, as does the way that we respectfully or disrespectfully disagree with others. Because our personal actions and our behaviors, they speak volumes louder than any curriculums that we teach as educators, and they speak louder than any decisions that we make as system leaders. So that's why we're so happy to have a panel of community elders during our closing plenary who will help us reflect and share some of their lessons on how we can better bridge across difference.
I'm looking forward to the panel as well, Jackie. Seeing humanity across disagreement and difference is definitely something that I'm working on as well. I think all of us, many of us can say the same. Another thing I'm looking forward to, we are going to be starting our day today by going to students in their schools. So we'll be visiting students on Zoom from around our region. We'll be featuring Gracie from Crazy Horse School in Pine Ridge, JC from Oaks Public Schools in North Dakota, Hasan from Heritage Academy in Minneapolis, Deja from Burnsville High School, south of the metro here, and Marcelo from Academia Cesar Chavez in St. Paul. Amy, our virtual moderator, could you spotlight the other students on Zoom here? And can we pan the screen to Zoom? Here we go. Okay, JC, it looks like you're muted. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Sure, yeah. So I'm JC Praska, and I'm a junior at Oaks Public School in Oaks, North Dakota. Oaks is a small agricultural community in southeast North Dakota. Oaks Public Schools has around 500 students in grades K through 12. OPS is finishing our 4th year of a transition to personalized competency-based learning. Here at Oaks Public School, our teachers are focusing on allowing students more voice and choice in their classrooms. In traditional classrooms, students sit and get content from their educators with little to no input and opportunity to advocate for what they want and need for their learning. What I like best about my school is that teachers and administrators allow learners to have a voice. By that, I mean they ask learners what they want and need to better our educational experience, and they make changes when things aren't working well. This is why I would like to challenge the educators by asking, how can you as educators make my peers have a passion to have higher learner agency and help them make choices in their learning experience? Thank you.
You. All right, up next, let's go to Gracie. You want to unmute yourself?
Hey, honey, wash day. Good morning. My name is Gracie Highhorse. I am a senior here at Crazy Horse School, located in Wally, South Dakota on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. The building was established back in 1975, and we are named after a prominent but legendary Lakota leader named Chief Crazy Horse. Hold on. An intriguing but although sad fact about CHS and its intended purpose to why it came to be was because the parents of the community wanted to keep their children closer to home. As from 1860 to 1978, Indian children were required to attend boarding schools, often far from home. And here at Tashunka Witko Owaioa, or Crazy Horse, we're surrounded by a culturally sacred environment, which means our native ways are incorporated into our everyday school life. For example, we have morning prayer, followed by our flag song, sung in Lakota, classes to help connect us to our roots, like Native American art and Lakota language. And a few weeks ago, I was given the opportunity to help build a sweat lodge in the back of our school, or rebuild it, I should say. It was pretty awesome. And something I would love to show you about what makes Crazy Horse special is the mural along the, if I could figure out how to switch my camera, is the mural along there. That's the ramp. Ignore the prom decor. I'm not sure when, who, or why it was painted, but it adds more color and value to the school. And there, that is the Eagle Nest Butte that overlooks Wombly, located in the western side of town. But now, educators, policymakers, and leaders of the education world, my charge to you is how could you improve the curriculum of reservation schools to where students are set up to succeed for the long run instead of for the matter of convenience. Thank you for giving me this wonderful opportunity to represent Crazy Horse School. I'm Petu Washte Yuha. Have a good day.
Thank you, Gracie. Let's now go to Hasan.
Okay, hello. Yeah, I couldn't unmute myself. Anyways, hello, my name is Hasan Ahmed. I'm a junior and I go to Heritage Academy in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's very culturally rich environment in the south side of Minneapolis, only 2 blocks away from George Floyd Square. So you could imagine that is a big topic that's been in the schools for the last 2 years, you know, and with the implementation of how we talk about CRT in our classrooms. One thing that's very, very special about my school is how inclusive it is for the Somali community. My school is like more than 99% Somali. And another thing is that we have a really, really strong sense of community. If I don't know, a thing we do out of respectiveness, like out of respect, is we use the word habrir, which means aunt, and we use that for our Somali educators that would be grown for or older than us, as many do other cultures do. It's more as a sign of respect, you know, and it adds a hominess and just a home feel to your school and your education. It's easier to learn, and it's easier to know that everybody that you learn with shares your values and necessarily knows the struggle that you go through every single day. Another thing that I want to add is that through these years, Heritage has been changing. We've had more educators coming in and out of the school, more programs, and we just got college in schools added into our classes and the curriculum that you can take. So I'm really happy to see that Minneapolis Public Schools is upping how we learn in these schools. A change I will have for educators is trust in students. I know a lot of educators might have a hard time trusting their students, whether it may be to come back on time to the classroom or to get work in on time from past experience that from past experiences in the classroom. But just know that every single student that comes through that door every semester and every quarter is a new experience, and knowing that you can trust them to be themselves and trust to know that they might have a bad day, they might have a good day, just trusting to know that they'll always be themselves will help educators teach and let students learn more. Thank you.
Thank you, Hasan. Next, we're going to Deja from Burnsville High School. Looks like you're unmuted, so go for it.
Okay. Hi, my name is Deja Warrington. I am a 9th grader at Burnsville High School in Burnsville, Minnesota. A special thing that I like about Burnsville is the diversity of students we have. We have a lot of electives and affinity groups for students that are accustomed to the different minorities that go here that are a lot. I am a part of the Student Diversity Council in our school, a group that was created to make all minority voices seen and heard and unify the school. We have a lot of opportunities to make our voices heard without the oversight of teachers or adults. In fact, a couple weeks ago, we got to lead professional development for our teachers about whatever topics we saw fit to teach about. My personal group got to educate the teachers in our group about dealing with microaggressions, both voiced by students and teachers. I think it's important for teachers to get the opportunity to learn from students too, instead of it just being the other way around. My charge for today is, how do we get all teachers to respect who we are and understand how important our identities are to us? How can the teachers who do support us protect us from hurtful comments to those that don't? Thank you.
Thank you, Deja. And now we'll go to, we had a change here. We'll go to Eduardo from Academia Cesar Chavez.
Hi, I'm sorry Marcelo couldn't be here today. He was sick. But good morning. Mi nombre es Eduardo Delgadillo Reyes y tengo 14 años. Good morning. My name is Eduardo Delgadillo Reyes and I'm 14 years old. Yo soy un estudiante de Academia Cesar Chavez. I'm a student from Academia Cesar Chavez. And what I like about ACC is that teachers care about their students. They're always worrying about them. They never doubt them. They care about their students a lot. Lo que me gusta de Academia Cesar Chávez es que las maestras siempre se importan por estudiantes, siempre están preocupados y siempre le preguntan qué tienen. And what I have for the teachers, my question is today is that what you guys are teaching your students, does it really benefit them? Does it really help them with their learning? Because nowadays all you can do is go to the internet and search something up and you get the answer? Does it really help them learn? Does it help them with for the future?
That's a great question. Thank you. All right. Well, let's give another round of applause to all 5 of these amazing students. And thank you to each of you. All right. Can I have our host come back up on stage? We're ready to move to our plenary speaker.
Yeah, the internet, right? Highlight the variety of
what I've seen from the few students that we've heard, these students know what they need. And it's up to the teachers to know what we need to, because even though we are separated through these past few years with quarantine and COVID and all of the injustices we've seen, we are still connected through our learning experiences, whether good or bad. And we need teachers' helps to make all those experiences good ones.
I'm happy to introduce you all to our keynote speakers, veteran principal leader, Jeffrey Garrett, and high school social studies teacher, Dr. Manuel. Yep. Manuel Rustin, host of Lively Podcast and Education Talk Show, All of the Above. Welcome, Jeffrey and Emmanuel.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. So wonderful to be here today. And since we can't actually see the screen, could we just get a thumbs up that what we're seeing is what you're seeing? Can you see our show logo? Okay, great. Oh, no. Okay. You see us. Good. Well, we see you too. So if we could get the screen switched over, that would be wonderful.
We see it.
All right, we are here. So good morning, everybody. I am Jeffrey Garrett, representing All the Above, and so excited to be here with you today. And I'm just gonna say how we would usually start our show, which is welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, to a special live episode of All the Above. I'm Jeffrey Garrett, one of your co-hosts, and I've been a middle and high school principal and a high school social studies teacher. And as always, I'm joined by...
What up, family? My name is Manuel Rustin. I'm a high school history teacher. I'm also known as your favorite teacher's favorite teacher. I teach in the city of Pasadena, which is just outside of downtown Los Angeles, and I'm a 18-year classroom teacher veteran. I have a OG teacher mentor who's watching my students for today, so I could be here to share space and learn from y'all and the wonderful students that we have here. Our show, All of the Above, we take a look at different issues affecting our classrooms across the nation, and we have super dope guests from across the nation. We are primarily working out of Southern California, and some of our stories have a bit of a California slant, but recently we've had a bit of a Minnesota slant on our show. We've had several guests from the state of Minnesota, and Jeff, I believe you yourself are familiar, I think, with Minnesota?
Mildly familiar. I grew up right here in the city of St. Paul. Yes, St. Paul in the building. I will say today is my triumphant return to the Science Museum. The last time I was at the Science Museum was the old building on the other side of downtown over there, but I'm so excited to see that the T-Rex is still here. That was pretty exciting for me when I walked in this morning, but it is a beautiful thing to be back. This is a city I love and a state I love. And my now 4-year conspiracy to bring All the Above to Minnesota is complete. So thank you for helping me in that effort, everyone.
I love it. I love it. So we're here to do just a one particular segment from our show, which we call the Do Now, which is an opportunity for us to look at stories and headlines across the nation related to education specifically. And I think, Jeff, since this is a student-centered learning event today, I think we're going to involve the audience in deciding which stories we're actually going to talk about. So if you could share with us how we're going to do that.
We are indeed, Manuel. So the Do Now is here. Like any, good traditional lesson, I suppose. We want to jump right in and get people activated. So you see a link on the screen there, which is a live polling link. And we would like everybody in the room, you can get it on a phone, on a laptop, whatever kind of device you have. For our folks who are participating virtually, you can participate as well. But you're gonna go to that link. It is a poll where you will see 4 topics that are the possible topics we can talk about in this segment today. And you're gonna rank order them. You're gonna pick your top 2. So you click on the little tile and it'll show you 2 little arrows where you can move them up or down. So just at least make sure your top 2 choices are your top 2 choices. And we'll give folks a minute here to get into the poll and vote. And then we'll see what the will of the people is. That's where we need that like Jeopardy music.
Yeah, we do.
And again, everybody who's participating virtually, you are invited and encouraged to weigh in as well. We're excited to have you here, and please join us. It's working. Yeah, I hear the murmur.
I hear the murmur.
Okay, we're gonna.
Full.
The poll is full.
Too many people.
Okay, well, funny enough, right before we began today, I turned to Manuel and I said, you know, if for some reason the poll doesn't work, how are we going to do this? Because we tested it and unfortunately it's not cooperating with us today.
We did not test it with 100 or so people.
We didn't. That might be the challenge. So here's what we're going to do. We have 4 options for topics. You see them on the screen there in front of you. The first one is the showdown over trans students' rights. The second one is teaching hard history lessons from around the globe. The third one is what teachers say they need during or coming out of the pandemic. And the last one is school board battleground leads to mass exodus. So those are the 4 possible topics. We're going to run through them A, B, C, D, and just ask for a show of hands here in the room. And we will make, Manuel, I'm going to empower you to make a highly subjective yet scientific
It's going to be precise.
assessment of our top 2 choices. So if you would like us to talk about letter A, throw a hand up right now, keep it up high so we can see. Letter A, okay, hands down. If you would like us to talk about letter B, hands up, okay, all right, hands up, keep them up, good. All right, hands down. Letter C. Okay, great, hands down. And last but not least, letter D. Okay.
B definitely is number 1.
Yes.
Oh yeah, okay.
Thanks,
C
Lois.
and D looked really, really close.
Okay.
I think C was. Oh yeah.
Let's see. Okay, it's not showing for us, so we're gonna go with the scientific assessment. B and C.
B and C.
Okay, B and C it is. All right. Yeah, we can get a round of applause for those topics. So we're gonna start with teaching hard history. And the way we do now, we have a little bit of a format. Today's format is called a lexicon. And as is important in any good learning setting, we have to know what the key vocabulary is, what is important to understand conceptually in order to dig in. So we're going to use a lexicon to talk about some key vocabulary today.
Yeah.
Starting with the very best possible word we could have chosen.
I rehearsed this. I practiced this. But then I was thinking, well, what if they don't choose that story? I won't have to try to pronounce this word in front of 200 people. But here we are. And I'm going to do my best. Vergangenheits Afarbeitung.
Nice. Any German speakers in the room?
Any? No? So we'll just
we
say
got
that was
one
perfect.
thumbs up. There you go.
Oh, wait. Boom. Perfect elite pronunciation there. And in this case, this term here is the German term for the process of coming to terms with the past. And this relates to a story that we picked up from Chalkbeat, Tennessee, written by Natasha Robinson, who is British, but grew up mostly in South Africa and has been thinking about how different countries approach their reconciliations with the past and teaching about eras of the past and their shameful histories. And she came up with some patterns across a few different countries, in particular, South Africa and Canada. And she mentions Ireland, and she also mentioned Germany and how they approach their shameful past in terms of teaching and reconciling with it. And she came up with a few patterns, a few lessons learned from reviewing how those countries faced their most shameful chapters. And lesson one was to embrace discomfort. She noted that these countries mandate the teaching of aspects of their history that some would find shameful or difficult to teach. And she says mandating that is very important because that helps result in resources, training, and gives teachers permission to tackle emotionally charged subjects. So mandating it, Jeff, that's similar to banning it, what we do here, more or less.
That's almost exactly like banning it.
Mandate,
Yes.
ban, all right, all right.
Yes.
She also found that these countries do an excellent job of preparing teachers for these conversations, in particular, thinking about the dynamic nature of these conversations and trying to predict how students might react to particular things and where the conversations might go. And she also says that a lot of these countries look at providing soft introductions. So instead of jumping into the most violent, the most graphic aspects of that history, to lead up to that and build a foundation first. And she points to a particular novel in Germany that young kids read that kind of sets the basis for Nazi Germany and the overall foundation of it before they get into the graphic horrors of the Holocaust. And she says that there's no clear consensus when it comes to when to start. Now, we've heard a lot of folks say, you know, if my child's young enough to experience racism, then your child is young enough to learn about racism, which is true. And she says, actually, there's different approaches depending on the country to how early students should learn about these histories. She points to South Africa as one where, when it comes to slavery and colonialism, they wait into the secondary grades because they want to start first with building a foundation of the brilliance of African kingdoms and what was there before colonialism, so that students can appreciate what was lost. Whereas in Canada, some are saying you got to start earlier because by the 5th grade, if you haven't touched on settler colonialism yet, they've already ingrained it and are already viewing the world through a settler colonial lens, and now there's unlearning to do. So no consensus on when to start, but it's particular attention needs to be paid to the actual content and actual communities there. And lastly, she said it's important to make it part of your national identity. In South Africa, Germany, Canada, they see this recognition of the past as something to better understand the nation and not something that's considered anti or unpatriotic or anything like that. So Jeff, I think that's pretty much the same thing we do here, right? So that's nothing to talk about.
Exactly. I see we have some other vocabulary words to go over with you after the show, Manuel, like mandate and the same. So I love this article. I think it's a fascinating perspective because very often when we talk about education in this country, I think we speak about it as though school only exists in America. Right. As though there's not billions of people going to school across the world or who have gone to school across the world. And that many of the things that we assume are just politically too difficult to do or, you know, are logistically challenging some way are just not possible, right? Rather than simply arbitrary choices that we have made in different parts of this country. And so I love that it's just, expanding the universe of possibility for us in a way that's really important because of the topic. Right? Because we have such an issue in this country with not being able to look in the mirror, not being able to have even an honest retelling of what our history has been. And then we are tasking educators with teaching, a inclusive, culturally responsive approach to history, or telling them they can't even attempt to do that because it might be illegal depending upon the state or district that you're in, or students could report you to a commission with the state attorney general should you live in, say, New Hampshire, right? So I love where this article is pushing us. My honest first reaction, though, was I am a little more in the camp of folks who say, like, if my child is, old enough to start experiencing racism and the effects of our problematic history, then we are all old enough to start talking about it at the very young ages. I wouldn't say I'm not a psychologist, not an expert on teaching of kindergarten per se, but I think there's a developmentally appropriate way we can tackle tough historical issues, honestly, at almost every level, right? Fairness and how one is treated relative to one's peers is essentially a fundamental human concept that kids can understand, even sometimes in the like mildly verbal stages of childhood development. So I think that in as much as this article is pushing, I want to push us even further to say, not only should we be talking about tough historical topics at all grade levels and in content areas that don't just include history and maybe English, right? But we should be doing so at the youngest possible levels. We have such a fundamental challenge in our society and such a deeply ingrained resistance to any type of honest assessment of what has happened in this country, from colonialism and manifest destiny to slavery to patriarchy and sexism to all of the isms, right? And we are compelled, I think, to have these conversations. So I'm excited. This article is helping us move in that direction, but I would say we push even further.
Yeah. So I teach mostly juniors and seniors. I teach ethnic studies. In my particular district, ethnic studies counts as their U.S. history credit, and it's new in our district this year. And I can say, in terms of this, her point about making it part of your national identity, I think the more we stray away from looking at this as something that helps build us up to understand who we are, how we got here, and then what the paths are ahead, the more we shy away from that, the harder it becomes for students, and then they become angry. So students, when they learn difficult content in my classroom, they're angry not just at what happened, but they're angry that it was held from them, like it was a secret that they weren't privy to. And it's incredibly important to make sure that we address that. In terms of the early ages, we've had some guests on our show who are elementary teachers and who spoke about how they approach it in different grade levels. And I think that is certainly important. I know that some teachers perhaps need much more preparation in how to do that. So she talked about how much preparation teachers receive in these countries to do this. As an ethnic studies teacher, it's spreading throughout California because it's now a high school graduation requirement in the state of California. And not every school is ready for that because there are teachers who are not ready to deal with that content and deal with that subject matter in a responsible way. So I really think that for me personally, before we ask teachers to make sure you include this in your 3rd or 4th grade lesson plans, I want to make sure the teacher knows how to responsibly do that and has a view of it that will help build students up rather than just like send them out the door hating everything. I don't know. So yeah.
There is an interesting question that you're raising there, which is bad teaching of tough history worse than no teaching of tough history? Which is that's one to think about. So I do appreciate the prepared teachers, and I would say we should probably expand that to prepare educators, because not only teachers in school buildings who are having conversations about these things. But fair point on that. I would like to just say in closing, the make it part of our national identity. I think there is an aspect of liberation that we are afraid of, I think, collectively in this country, that if we talk about the secrets, it's going to somehow bring us down. It's going to make us, continue to embody the shame that may come from some of those secrets. And I think quite the opposite is true. And I would imagine there are many people in this room, I see some heads nodding, who think similarly, right? That actually what we get from facing these tough conversations is some moment of pain and discomfort, but then there's also the liberation that comes with the knowledge of what has happened, the understanding of the moral landscape upon which we are operating as educators, and then the call to do right by our students and interrupt these patterns going forward. And so I think that's what, what really resonated with me in this piece, and what I think is hopeful about it, despite this dark moment we are in right now politically, is hopeful about the possibility for the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Jeff, we have another lexicon term, one more before we get out of here. What do we got?
We do. Okay. So our next term,
not that one.
Sorry. In the wrong order there. My apologies. Our next term is a great word, just a great word, vociferate, Manuel, vociferate. This one might have been on the SAT when you sat for it how many years ago now?
That's not important. We're running out. We got to just keep moving.
Vociferate is to rectangle as, right. What's the right answer?
To shout and speak loudly. Or maybe complain, but I don't like when teachers speak up. I don't like referencing that as complaining, but I think it is to complain loudly, right?
I think you are correct. Certainly in this context, we have had some teachers vociferating on what they need and what we need in education. And this story comes to us from the organization Educators for Excellence, who just recently released a national survey, fascinating national survey that was put together by a group of 15 of their teacher members from around the country, who are all K-12 educators. And this is, we think, perhaps the only national educator survey that has both a overall assessment and a disproportionately overrepresented sample of educators of color to make comparisons nationally. So some fascinating data here, which we're gonna get into. So there were essentially three big buckets of topics that came up from this survey. The first of which was how the Great Resignation, the so-called Great Resignation, is impacting the classroom. And this maybe revealed some things that might be a little counterintuitive to folks, right? Nationally, we've heard a lot about people just, quitting jobs and going places for better wages. I think we've had a lot of fear that that might be the case for educators as well. However, 86% of respondents to this survey overall said that they were very or somewhat likely to spend their entire career as a classroom teacher. However, only 52% of educators of color said the same. Also, just under 80% of respondents said higher salary is the issue that would most likely keep teachers in the profession. And yet among educators of color, 82% of them said the issue that would most likely keep them in the profession is professional support and leadership opportunities, right? So some fascinating gaps there when we look demographically at the data. One more topic I do want to share about in the survey is teachers' views on what they need in the wake of the pandemic, right? And 60% of respondents said engagement in school is way down this year across all demographics, grades, and school types. So this includes things like learning, completion of homework, participation in class, and attendance. And parallel to that, relatively few educators felt that the government should continue to require, the federal government should continue to require states to administer assessments this school year. Only 53% of educators said that. And only 11% said that they should, the federal government should hold districts and states accountable as usual. So Manuel, some surprising or maybe counterintuitive results in there, some maybe more in line with what we might think. You as the classroom teacher on the panel here, what would you like to vociferate about? I don't think I used that correctly right there.
It's all good.
Please vociferate for us.
Sure. So one interesting note was how many students, so you said, speaking about students, how many teachers said higher salary is what would help keep them in the classroom versus teachers of color, where the overwhelming majority said actually it's leadership opportunities and professional support, which to me means pay me, but also respect me and help me be included in decision-making and help me see a path forward. I know as a Black teacher myself, my first year, it was like, oh, you're so great with the difficult students. And it was like piling on the most challenging, quote unquote, challenging students into my classroom. And I felt very used in that sense. I think a lot of educators of color could somewhat relate to that. But in terms of in the wake of the pandemic, 60% of folks saying that student engagement is down since before the pandemic. I'm surprised the number's not higher. I know at my school site, teacher after teacher after teacher is telling me about how much they're struggling. Lessons and units that used to really excite and energize their students now just falling flat, and they're running out of ideas of what to do. And I think one element of that is what Eduardo said early on, like everything's on the internet. Like if you're just teaching content straight up with no critical thinking, no engagement, no like participation in actually developing it, then whatever, I'll just Google it, I'll find it that way. And I think that's been the case for a long time, but it's even more so the case now. But also, students are looking around at a world where what we told them is going to work out doesn't always work out anymore. So we've been telling them go to college, go to college, go to college, and they're hearing all these stories about student debt, and they're hearing all these stories about folks who went to college and now are struggling to find work that pays them enough to actually buy a house and live a good life. A lot of the messages that we gave them before the pandemic simply aren't adding up. So students are like, all right, whatever. I've seen that in a lot of my own students. And for me, the approach that has helped me resolve that and get through to them is by including them as much as possible in the actual content itself. So we're doing our White Power projects right now, youth participatory action research, where young people choose the issue in their community that they want to research and want to develop action plans for. And they're in it. Like, I don't even have to like get them off their phones for that, because they're locked in on developing their instruments, their survey instruments, and deciding on their methodology and all that. So I think it's on us. The onus is on us as educators to make the education experience worth it for these students, because we're competing against, of course, social media and all the online apps and all that stuff. But also we're helping young people try to make sense of a world that simply does not make sense right now. And the onus is on us. So if my student is sitting back there just unengaged and not interested, it's on me to figure that out, because me coming at the student in a punitive way isn't going to help anything at this point. So I'm surprised it's not more than 60% of respondents saying that engagement is down since before.
Yeah, I was definitely surprised by that as well. But I think I'm going to jump back to the first data point that we shared, which was 86% of educators saying they are likely to spend their entire career in the profession. And as a former principal, as a person who works with a district, a large district, it is just simply a miracle that number is real right now. Like, the last 2 years have been incredibly difficult, and that is probably the most polite way to describe what has taken place. And the fact that on the back end of that, we're still seeing, close to 9 out of 10 educators saying, yes, this is still where I want to be. I was deeply surprised by that, and felt like even the best teachers that I know, and like this guy sitting to my left here, we had a couple conversations over the last 2 years about, like, I don't know, are there other things I could do? Like, this is incredibly difficult. Teaching blank Zoom boxes for a year is among the most demoralizing things one can do, right? And so I think on one hand, we should just be astounded by this and like hug a teacher, right? Like, thank you for being willing to continue to do this. Things are and can continue to get better, but like, wow, teachers are incredible, is my first reaction. Yeah, we can clap for that. And I don't know if you surveyed principals, if that number would be the same. My hunch is it would be lower. So definitely hug a teacher and pat a principal on the back as well. Okay, so that was my first reaction. Second reaction, Manuel, was also when we think about engagement, right? And engagement being down. There was so much talk. I don't know how many webinars I went to. This is probably true for lots of other people here as well. In the early days of the pandemic, that were all about, we got to revolutionize education. This is the moment. We're going to change this and we're going to change that. And I've been to a number of schools this school year. I'm very fortunate I get to go to lots of schools. And I've seen very few of those schools doing anything different that they were doing in substantively, other than the fact that all the kids have Chromebooks now. So that's cool. But not a whole lot of substantive difference from the way things were in 2020, right? In February of 2020, before it all changed. And so, yes, there are distinctions. Yes, we have learned some things, but I do think there is perhaps an educator-driven need to revisit that conversation about what needs to be different now, because students have been through a lot. We've been through a lot. This institution and the economy and society that surrounds it is not exactly the same as it was. And so we need to revisit some of the big questions about how we use our time and what are the goalposts in education, and do they need to move now in some ways? Because, as you said, the payoffs are perhaps different than they were, or the rules have shifted in some ways, but like the mandates from the state about seat time and the state tests and the things that really put bars around what things can be done in schools across the country haven't moved, right? We had a lot of rhetoric about change, not a lot of policy that enabled change to happen. Apart from places where individual folks were really, just doing trailblazing work. So that's what this calls me to think about.
Yeah, amen. I could go on about this year, man, and what's going on in the classroom. It's been a year. It's been tough, man, but I agree. Hug a teacher or Wakanda salute from a distance.
I like the Wakanda salute. Yeah. Yes.
All right, I think we are just about to wrap up. Now, we end each show. We talk about a lot of topics on our show, and sometimes it's a reminder of how much work there is left to be done. So we like to always end on a positive note. And for us, that's our class dismissed segment where we like to shout out folks doing great things in the world of education. And for today's class dismissed, we thought it'd be appropriate to shout out all the young people who are part of today's events. And let's give it up for all the young people.
Give it up for the young folks.
Get up.
So I'm going to give a couple of specific shout outs to the youth who are involved today. And actually, even before that, I do that, I want to give a shout out to Education Evolving for helping to make today's event happen. What you see on the screen there is their model for student-centered learning. I think we often talk about student-centered learning. There's not necessarily enough places where we are attempting to live by it. So, so props to them, props to you all for being here, and props to these amazing sets of young folks. We have our two wonderful youth hosts or MCs for today. We have youth who joined us via Zoom. Wonderful to hear from them and folks across the region here, which is great. Youth from Youth Lens 360 are here today and going to be interviewing adults, so be on the lookout for that. We have youth from Bridge Walkers who are going to be leading roundtable discussions today, and then we have a very special musical performance coming up from Quatley in just a moment here. So we would like all the youth in the room to please stand for a moment and be acknowledged. Please stand up. Yeah, stand on up. Absolutely. So thank you for your service, for your leadership today, and for helping us have a great experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And folks, there's flyers, I think, on the tables you could just scan to get to our website. Has all the different platforms. We're a video show. We're also, podcast, so you can find us there as well. And if you enter the raffle when you came in, the raffle is for one of these shirts that you see pictured there. If you're interested in any of these Teach the Truth shirts, they're at our website, aotashow.com/support, and you'll see all the links to the merch and all that. We really want to just extend a warm thank you to everybody for taking time out to be here today for such an important conference, such an important topic. We really do hope that you enjoy each of the sessions later, and we hope you enjoyed a little bit of our conversation here. Check us out. We release new episodes every week or so, depending on our teacher, principal, leader schedule. So yeah, that's about it, I think.
All right. Thanks everybody.
Appreciate y'all.
Oh, yes. Okay. So while we are doing a little bit of housekeeping right here, I also want to introduce our next guest to the stage, our performer. He is a student from the Recording Arts High School. Did I get that right? Okay. Recording Arts High School here in St. Paul, right down the street from where I grew up. None other than Quatley. Give it up for Quatley, please.
Check. Hold on. I want to say a couple things real quick. All right, so how y'all feeling? I like to start off like making sure my audience is good, checking on them. So how y'all feeling today? That was okay. I know it's the morning. I know we can do a little better than that though. So how y'all feeling? That was good. Okay, cool. Yeah, like you said, I'm from high school for recording arts. I'm a senior. My name is Quatley. Born and raised here in the Twin Cities. I used to come Science Museum all the time, so this is a familiar place for me. Yeah, that's about it. So we can get into it now. Yeah.
I've been waiting on this moment my whole life. Promise everything is gonna be alright. I've been waiting on this moment my whole life. Promise everything is gonna be alright.
Just from the sober, can you come closer? Just wanna hold you down. No matter the outcome, don't worry about none. Just like you safe and sound. Don't wanna break you down. Just wanna make you smile. I just wanna take you out. I just wanna make you proud.
I've been waiting on this moment my whole life. Promise everything is gonna be alright. Hey, I've been waiting on this moment my whole life. Hey, promise everything is gonna be alright.
I don't even know where to start. How did you flow? You belong with the stars. Down with the pearl, can't compare to your high. Been through it all, they can't break you apart. I got your back, and you safe in my arms. On top of that, you be holding your ground. Leaving you so cause we going around. Now you want more, but your boy gotta bounce. Back in the studio, but you be told, I'd much rather be here with you. Don't wanna leave you out, just thinking about all the stuff we gonna do. Want something scenic, just leave it to me. Never believe, only leaving with you. Chasing these dreams where we reach for the stars. They ain't nearly as far as we think. Just put down your drink, buckle your seat. Hold on to me, I'll show you what I mean. I take you for a ride. Look at the figures, we can never die. Catch us floating through the sky. They can mess with you and I. The way I feel, I can't deny. You don't even gotta try.
I've been waiting on this moment my whole life. Hey, promise everything is gonna be alright. Hey, I've been waiting on this moment my whole life. Hey, promise everything is gonna be alright.
Thank y'all, that's it. I just want to say one more thing too. This is like the smallest and the biggest stage I've been on at the same time, so I just thought that was kind of funny. Thank y'all.
Congratulations, Lee. I am very honored to go to school with him. You can listen to him on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, everything. Go check him out. His music is amazing, and I'm a genuine fan.
Nah, that was crazy. The smallest, biggest stage. That was crazy. We're at the end of our plenary program here, but we got a whole day ahead of us.
For those who are in person, it's a great time to connect with those who you haven't seen in a while and check out our breakout sessions. I'm pretty sure there are some interesting topics going around. And for those of you who are remote, I've heard you've got some goodies. So feel free to sample those before our breakout sessions.